Well, briefly speaking, I'm addressed to speak about the interactions about the directives regarding marine spatial planning and satellite data. Briefly speaking, I would like just to address the interaction between four directives, which are the Marine Spatial Planning Directive, the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, the Inspire Directive, and also the Environmental Directive. These four directives, they have I would say, an effect on marine cadastre. However, there are some serious facts that are important to address regarding the situation of the environment nowadays in the world that I would love to show you. So, briefly speaking, sea needs space. Why does sea need space? Because satellites, they provide for valuable data, as you know, by using remote sensing techniques and also in situ techniques. As I'm surely you know, the satellite distribution channel refers to the deliverance of data, raw data, to ground station devices which distribute this data in various and many forms to web users, to companies, to international organizations, to governments for the private and own purposes. Earth's success needs maritime ecosystems. I think this is clear enough because from a technical and from an ecosystem and environmental perspective, photosynthesis of marine organisms absorb a certain amount of carbon isotopes, which has a valuable effect on the atmosphere. Also, whether could marine spatial planning reverse climate change? It should because we have two directives that the deadline is scheduled for 2020 and 2021. I'm referring to the Marine Spatial Planning Directive and the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. Also, I'll show you some issues and potential interaction with marine spatial planning. Some of these issues will not please you too much, but it's the reality so far, as has been studied by the Union of Conservation of Nature. So, there you go. This is a simple device, as you know, that refers to the technology that we have so far, apart from artificial intelligence and marine bioengineering of brevet d'invention, patents that can help to provide for a safe environment in the near future. So these are ROVs, buoys, in situ sensors, and there are some calculations provided by some studies provided from some universities, as I've been studying during my research, that can help to address enough data in terms, for instance, of big data that could help the environment to acquire a safer situation as it is right now. So, there are some predictors, as I would like to refer to the monitoring of marine ecosystems, some facts. The capacity to rebound nature from human impact. The capacity to rebound nature from human impact refers as follows. Human impact is the activity that is carried by humans that refers to the exploitation of the environment. And the capacity to rebound of nature is the capacity of nature to provide for more, as I would say, resources that factories can just extinct. In this regard, the conservation of marine species concerns me a lot because overfishing, for instance, overharvesting is causing more damage than the nature is able to repair. So in this regard, we are reaching to a serious level of carbon isotopes that actually is 407 particles per million. Nature is only able to 10 minutes. Okay, it's only able to integrate about 25–30% of such amounts. So these are the facts that I've been addressing to you, the particles per minute. Also, 25% of marine mammals are at risk of extinction, and I was referring before to the phytoplankton capacity to absorb CO2. Okay, this is a picture that refers clearly to the activity of humans in the sea. Okay, so regarding the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, we have the goal of the Marine Strategy Framework Directive referring to reaching a good environmental status by 2020. And we are far from getting there because the studies carried by the European Union in 2017 are not clear enough. In this regard, 2020 is at latest the year where all these frameworks should be adapted in order to protect and preserve the marine environment, prevent its deterioration, as it says here, and prevent and reduce inputs in the marine environment, such as human impact. It affects all marine waters. On the contrary, the marine spatial planning respects land-sea interactions, as I will show. So this is the scheme provided by European Union regarding the implementation of the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. As I said before, 2018 is the latest news that we have, where some serious reports carried by governments should be seriously addressed to the European Union to show that this directive is being respected in this regard and not infringed. So, as I referred before, these reports are named in the directive monitoring programs. This is the example that Marine Strategy Framework Directive refers to regarding topography and bathymetry, and many other factors that are contained in the directives. So, the directive refers to 11 quality descriptors that, as I referred before, that regarding the marine, the bed soil, the coral reefs, and some others that are quite important. But I'm sure if you have direct access to this directive, you will be able to read there all these parameters. As I said, this is the current status that I just defined before. 2018 is the next Commission report that will show how the progression of countries is being carried. In my opinion, not enough efforts are being made in this regard, but we're getting there, hopefully. Big data. Big data is also a technique that refers to the processing data that would allow a technology to access and to make decisions upon all the data. If we could manage to gather all this data regarding the protection of marine environments, we would be able to make proper decisions regarding boat destinations, altering boat routes in order to not affect marine mammals because they have sensible and sensitive radar systems, regarding fracking activities, petrol activities in the sea. As you probably know, that there are some companies that prefer to pay the fine instead of or the insurance instead of respecting, unfortunately, some frameworks. But hopefully, this tendency will change in the near future. Despite the directive, such data that is being shared by companies, they have to use the same names and acronyms. Otherwise, countries will not be able to understand each other. So that's why the SPY directive refers to spatial data set, network services, metadata. These terms are being used by all these countries, members of the European Union, of course, and also this uniformization and harmonization of these terms allow countries to collaborate and cooperate between themselves. The United States and Canada are also two examples that where big data and all these satellite terms are uniform, so they have a deeper capacity to solve these problems. The environmental law, some environmental law directives, one clear example is the result of the inactivity and lack of responsibility of humans regarding the marine environment. We were obliged to enact a directive that says polluter pays, meaning by the company or the individual that damages the environment has to repair the damage caused to the situation previously existing before that damage was caused. In this regard, insurance companies play a significant role here. Recently, the International Criminal Chamber in The Hague studied and issued a report by saying that environmental crimes could be considered crimes against humanity. And we are seriously studying this point in order to make the situation going even, just and acquiring a decent level of balance between the existing situation right now and what it should be. So, challenges regarding big data, as I referred, data management, controlling human hazards, and also we need to educate our kids with environmental values, because with such a knowledge and principles, we will not be able to provide for a decent future for our kids and our next generations. So, regarding the maritime spatial planning directive, as we know, we have a direct reference regarding land cadastre. As we all know, if we own real estate or we have experience regarding buildings and land uses, the Marine Spatial Planning Directive refers to the process of allocating or developing this allocation of resources, factories, companies that exploit and have activities on sea, over the sea. Problem is that we are not talking about 2 dimensions, we're talking about 3 dimensions, because we have another element that we are working on. It's not land, it's water. So boundaries in water are not well defined because we need to count depth as well. So some facts that encourage us to reach that level. 23 million tons of cargo and 55,000 cruise passengers are traveling by ship every day, and 90% of the world trade is carried by sea, average yearly grown over 8.5%. So UNESCO is really concerned about this fact. Handicaps. We have obsolete laws and indeed obsolete applications. Human hazards like oil spilling, drilling, fracking, sound pollution, marine trade, ship routes should be considered and reviewed. In this regard, SPAMIS, there's a protocol concerning special protected areas that refer that in France you've got the Pelagos area, which is I believe in the north, of course, which is a very beautiful area that you really should protect, because there are a lot of dolphins and humpback whales, and there you have a really beautiful environment, so it's worth to protect such area. These laws would allow us, if applied correctly. So, marine special planning activities. It will reduce conflict, encourage investments, increase cooperation, and if focused correctly, companies will not collide between themselves by carrying their activities, and damages, and insurance companies will appreciate this lack of organization, and damages will not be likely to happen. Deadline. We have a deadline, 2021. As I said, the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, 2020 is the deadline. 2021 is the deadline for the establishment of this marine spatial planning, which there are some programs, as I refer here, funded by the European Union that should encourage you to take a close look. So, in this regard, as I said, so I defined already the subject matter, the scope, all marine waters, by also respecting land-sea interactions, and the factor industrial activities carried out, aquaculture, fishing areas, installation infrastructures, you name it. Also military train areas, maritime transport, nature, submarine cable, underwater. There's a lot of work to be carried out. I hope we make it. And well, Article 14 of the Marine Spatial Planning Directive referred to the activities of countries to provide for these reports to show that they're complying with the directive in this regard by sending copies, and also there's the obligation to deliver reports. And here I outlined the jurisdictional problems, because determining boundaries in waters are not very well carried out at the moment. So, planning without boundaries, as I referred, is the complexity because of multiple jurisdictional issues. Thank you very much for your kindness. I hope I'll see you soon.